people have been waiting and thinking that we were going to have this catastrophic event which is going to cause prices to come down. The macro conversation that's happening as you move into 2026 is not negative for Steamboat. And you wait 3 years, who knows what happens? You might not be a skier anymore.
Yeah.
Right? All right, go ahead.
Yeah. My name is Jessica Stanford. I am the Director of Operations for the agency Steamboat, and I am partnered here with our managing partner, Chris Paoli. He's going to tell us a little bit, kind of a general feel of, how's the market and what he's been seeing in Steamboat. I think there's just a lot of conversation to have, so I want to pick your brain on what you think.
Well, thanks, Jessica. We just wrapped up, Q3 2025, so it's always kind of interesting. We have we're definitely a seasonal market. You got winter season and summer season, and then in theory we got shoulder season. So we came out of a summer that was just an absolute blender. It was incredibly busy and active, and for all the headlines you see out there in the market that are scary and unknown, and how do you figure out what to do in a world where we don't know what's going to happen with tariffs or interest rates or all these other variables. And then, from our side, we're sitting with buyers who are looking to make very large investments. So going into the summer, you would just think, we just thought this was going to be an off year, volume was going to be down, inventory was up. And, when you look at the data year over year, 2024 to 2025, there's really not a material difference between sales volume, total sales, and number of transactions.
Yeah.
Statistically, the differences are immaterial. We're a little bit off from 2024, but if you watch the news, you would have thought we were going to be, 20% or 30% off.
Yeah, okay.
So that was really interesting to see. And it was such a busy summer with so much activity that, it wasn't until we sat down to actually pull the numbers and look at it that we were like, wow, this was actually a busier 2025 than I would have expected. Ironically, in the middle of that, we had a number of buyers who we missed on bidding wars.
Yeah. Which you hate.
And that was, you see a property that sits around for, 4 months, 5 months, and then you go make an offer on it and a competing offer comes in and you're like, what?
What happened?
How did that happen?
Yeah. Where'd that come from?
So, I would say in the data, one of the things that did pop up and was noticeable is the drop off in land sales.
Oh,
we saw about a 34% drop off in the number of transactions, and then our average sale price was off very materially. We have like a 2.5 year supply of land right now, which is does make a lot of sense because while we see sales volume maybe plateaus or goes down a little bit, very rarely do you see construction costs come down. You don't see any contractors out there holding up signs that say 20% off cost to build.
Happy hour.
That doesn't ever really happen.
Right.
So that so if you're a buyer and you see a larger supply of homes for sale and you really want to get into the market and you're weighing the pros and cons of, hey, do I go through a 3-year construction process and then some of the numbers that are thrown around cost to build wise, or I just go buy this existing home. A lot of people, I think, have made the decision to just go buy the home and forego, the construction project.
Sure. Okay. I mean, I think there's a lot of, buyers out there that don't know that they're buyers. I think they're just extremely curious in the market in general, whether they've been in Steamboat for, 10 years, 20 years, or 3 years. Have you had many conversations where they're coming to you and they're saying, I want to buy some land, where can I do that and what are my costs?
We've had a lot of conversations with folks who, have had the idea that they were going to buy some land, build a project, and then just as we got through the process, it's a little bit daunting. Steamboat's intimidating. We have a lot of access to construction resources. We work with a lot of developers. We're partners in a construction company. We know what it costs, and going through that process, a lot of times we've been, which has been nice this year, we've been able to find people, existing homes to get into at relatively good values relative to the cost to build.
Right.
That being said, I think what's important, for people to note is that the inventory and supply of homes is, it is not, there's not 20 houses out there that meet most people's criteria, even just in general in the inventory, not for sale. So you could have this idea of what you want, and if your goal is perfection in the home side, you might be waiting for 10 years to actually get what you want.
Right.
So I do think there is a lot of value in building right now. Like I think, I do think construction costs have somewhat plateaued a little bit. I think you can be strategic in a project, and I think there's some really good attractive pieces of land out there. I mean, I think Sydney Peak offers a really good value in some of its properties relative to the marketplace.
Right.
We just saw a house over in Catamount Lake go into contract at roughly $2,000 a square foot was the asking price. That's an unheard of number for our market.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
We've seen a number of really nice dialed in. There's a house in the Sanctuary that's priced almost at $1,500 a foot that went under contract, new construction. So I do think there's an opportunity if you have the patience, you have the ability to put up with a project. I think there's actually a lot of value long term.
Yeah. Do you think buyers need to, always have something that they need to compromise to be able to buy in Steamboat?
I would say Steamboat definitely is a market where, it's really hard to find exactly what you're looking for, but we can usually meet, 3 or 4 out of the top 5 criteria.
Mr. Creative over here.
Yeah, we like to, we're always like kind of shoehorning, but a lot of times Steamboat, what's interesting about the market here is that, Steamboat lives a lot different than a lot of other places.
Right.
So, we go through an education process about how you want to, how you're going to use your home and
how do you live in it?
Yes,
right.
exactly.
Sure.
But back to the numbers, one of the things that I think was really interesting is this October and the last half of September has been off the charts busy. This has been like by far the busiest fall. I mean, the last 3 falls, I don't want to say anything, but I did go on like long trips and I took a break after I got out of the summer, blender. This fall, I have not been able to travel at all or do anything. That's kind of been, my little break is, end of September and October, early October is to be able to get out of town for a minute. And this year, I mean, I would say our last 2 weeks have been busier than, the middle of August, which is, prime time.
Yeah. I mean, you think about our summer selling season, and that's generally Memorial Day to Labor Day?
Yeah. I mean, we just put a house on the market in the $3.5 million price point. We had multiple bids on it, and probably 2 more potential bids would have come around, and it went under contract in a weekend.
Yeah.
And just seeing the activity, we had an open house on a rural piece of property and had 17 people come through. We didn't have 17 people come through in any one weekend during the summer to all of our open houses. So
open houses are coming back.
But in October, when there's nobody in town?
Right. That's kind of where I think it has my wheels turning of why. Where are they coming from? Where are the buyers coming from? Are they strictly people that have lived here and want a little bit more of a move-up property, or they want something different?
What I think is really, Steamboat is, we're not dealing with pool buyers that are financially, stressed. Most of the people that I'm talking to are very comfortable. Through the plethora of businesses that our clients own and operate and work in, very few of them are actually talking to me about poor business situations. Most of them are actually very optimistic on the marketplace. I think what we're starting to see is that people have been waiting and thinking that we were going to have this catastrophic event, which is going to cause prices to come down.
Sure.
And then you get to a point where you're like, oh no, and that might not be happening. So we're starting to see people that have been looking. I'm seeing people that I've watched, either our clients or come to open houses with us for like 2 years, start to step off the sideline because I think they're like, hey, I've been waiting for this big correction.
Yep.
We've had a pause and we've had a hesitation, but it just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So
now they're finally able to make that decision.
And if you look at our inventory, the total residential inventory in Steamboat right now, I think we're at like 247 or 250 properties, plus or minus. I mean, it's going to move around. When you whittle that down into any given category, it's not that many. So if you've been sitting around waiting for this big correction, and it really hasn't happened, we have no new development really happening outside of the Amble. And the Amble's been slowly picking up sales. I think they're up to 24 out of 42 under contract, which is great. So, if you're a buyer who's been waiting on the sideline, you only have so much time to actually make life decisions.
Right.
And, you wait 3 years, who knows what happens? You might not be a skier anymore.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
so, and you want to enjoy these places with your family, and, there's windows of time. So I would say that what we're seeing right now is that prices haven't adjusted as much as I think people thought they were gonna. A lot of things went under contract that people thought would go down in price. And now people are saying, you know what? I'm gonna go and make the decision that I wanted to make.
Right.
And I don't think the world's gonna end.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I would say that the thing that is always interesting about Steamboat is our numbers are so small. Like
True.
if
Yes. In comparison
if
to
50 people decided we are gonna buy today, you materially change our supply-demand situation. So, and I would say this past weekend was a really good indicator of, people stepping off the sideline and making the decision to buy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think I would say what we saw towards the end with the end of the summer, the start of Q4, is very optimistic going into 2026.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to bring some really positive conversations for Steamboat.
Yeah.
I'm hearing the Stockman's going to break ground, which is going to be the first luxury property up at the base area.
Right. That's going to be.
If you put a luxury
big deal
hotel
for
up
us.
at the mountain just took over Gravity House. So now we've got, the mountain with another lodging property. Overall, the experience is significantly being enhanced. Discovery is talking about getting through approvals in January. I would say, the macro conversation that's happening as you move into 2026 is not negative for Steamboat. It's anything but.
Right.
So
I guess that kind of like leads into my last question of, looking ahead, what do you think our like winter selling season is going to look like? And that leads from, the end of Q4 into
Q1?
call it 2026, but we probably have a winter selling season through the end of March.
I actually really, I say it all the time, I have no idea.
Yeah.
We went from COVID, which blew apart all of our typical seasonality. Last year, we went back to a more seasonal market. I would have thought we were going to do no business in 2025 if you asked me the second week of January. And we had a record Q1. So that was totally surprising.
Right.
And then we go through this summer, which was bananas and completely busy in many ways. And now I've got an October that is busier than any October I've ever experienced in my 15 years in this market here.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because if we were to look at, call it the past 5 Octobers, I would love to see what that data looks like for us. And if there's a way for, for us to look and say, is this a way for us to look at the beginning of 2026?
Well, that gives me something to go look at. And I would say, just to kind of wrap up, I'd say, you watch the stock market, you watch the, major media news headlines, and they're all nothing but negative. Yet the stock market keeps going up. Our interest rates are just floating around 4% right now, so I think we're starting to see some changes there.
Yep.
I think 2026, could really surprise a bunch of people and be way stronger than anybody thinks.
Yeah.
But
well, it's exciting to think about.
I'm going to go back to my standard prediction of I really honestly have no idea. but all I know is we're going to keep working and doing what we do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate the time, and I think there's a lot obviously that we could talk about forever. So it's just good to get a little snippet into what we think. This summer selling season was, and then going in and looking at what 2026 will bring.
I look forward to doing this in about 2 months, and we can look back and see what happened.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
So, all right.
Cool.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thanks.